On today's edition of the Thrive Time Show, we interview the creator of the most viewed and most banned documentary series of all time. You can't watch his movies on Twitter. You can't watch his movies on Facebook. You can't find him on YouTube. You can't get him on Amazon because the Plandemic movie series has been censored more than any other movie in American history. Why? Because it shares the truth about Dr. Fauci and his gain-of-function research, which caused the Plandemic. Oh yes, and it tells you about Bill Gates and his obsession for making you take vaccines that will actually kill you or severely harm you. If what today's movie producer is saying is true, Dr. Fauci is absolutely the last medical expert that we should be listening to on how to handle a pandemic. Mikki Willis, are you ready to go?
Yes.
Some shows don't need a celebrity narrator to introduce the show, but this show does. 2 men, 8 kids, co-created by 2 different women, 13 multi-million-dollar businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Thrive Time Show.
Now, 3, 2, 1, here we go!
Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom.
Yes, and yes. Thrive Nation, on today's show, we have one of the most censored documentary producers of all time, Mikki Willis. Welcome on to the Thrive Time Show. How are you, sir?
I am fantastic. How you doing?
Brother, I'm honored to speak with you. Dr. Judy Mikovits is a friend of mine, and we met. I was actually at the Trump International Hotel in Washington, D.C., and I was talking to Marla Maples and to Tiffany Trump, and they all said, you got to meet Dr. Judy Mikovits. Well, that led me to her, which led me to your documentary. How did you first get involved in discovering the truth of what's going on?
Well, that goes way back. So I had 2 family members die in the same month, my brother and my mother, died of bad medical treatments, one of AIDS, one of cancer treatments. And I was in my early 20s, and that kind of rocked my world and pointed me in the direction of looking deeper into the corrupt side of Western medicine, and it always stayed with me. And I started to do a lot of work in the medical field as a documentary filmmaker. And then a couple of years ago, 2.5 years ago or so, at this point, somebody introduced me, a very dear friend of mine, another doctor, introduced me to Judy Mikovits, and told me that she was coming out with a new book, and I might want to take a look at it because we need to get her story out there, that it's critical, and perhaps there's a movie in there that'll help spread the word. And so I met her and loved her and knew she was telling the truth right away. And then when this pandemic was declared, I had a meeting with her to find out what was going on, because I knew right away that something fishy was up. And in the middle of our meeting, I said, let's just pause, come to my studio, and let's just put this on tape. Let's sit down, because I think this is so critical that the world needs to know. And the rest is history.
Your movie is banned. Plandemic is banned from Facebook, Twitter, essentially all social media. Where can people actually go who want to watch Plandemic 1 and or Plandemic 2?
So go to plandemicseries.com. plandemicseries.com, and everything is on there. And then we also took out a lot of excerpts from the movie, little vignettes. So if you just want to learn about the WHO, the WHO, the CDC, we have those vignettes that are clipped out, and everything is translated into 12 to 14 languages at this point. And then we also have something called the rabbit hole on that website, and I highly recommend everyone to go there and check that out, because we put a lot of time into that with some very brilliant people. And so if you're in the rabbit hole yourself now doing research, you really want to know what's going on in our world, this will give you a jump start. There's so much great information in the rabbit hole.
I think many Americans are now aware of this, but just in case they're not, the models that were initially used to justify locking down America to stop hospitals from being overwhelmed, those models were created by the Abdul Latif Jameel Institute. The director at the time, his name is Neil Ferguson. And Neil Ferguson's Abdul Latif Jameel Institute is funded by Amazon. A lot of people don't recognize that or know that, but Amazon invested $700 million into the Saudi-backed Abdul Latif Jameel Institute. And Amazon just conveniently had 100,000 vehicles auto-wrapped and ready to go that they wouldn't need unless there was a fundamental shift in the way that Americans operated and shopped and that kind of thing. Whoa. I'd like to get your comments on these the models. The models from the very beginning. Did you know the models were going to be nefariously wrong? Did you believe they might be correct? What do you think about the models that were used to justify the lockdowns?
I'm sure many of you saw the recent report out of the UK about them adjusting completely their needs. This is really quite important. If you remember, that was the report that said there would be 500,000 deaths in the UK and 2.2 million deaths in the United States. They've adjusted that number in the UK to 20,000. So 500,000 to 20,000. We're looking into this in great detail to understand.
Well, I'll tell you, I was in the middle of producing another movie at the time. I'd been in it about 8 months at that point, a movie that we titled The Narrative, and it was going to expose all of the false narratives in the world and how they were controlling humanity and what it was doing to the collective psyche. And just about everyone on these 2-3 threads that I'm involved in and on these encrypted apps were all agreeing that a false flag would be coming very soon. Watch out. Something's coming, and it's going to be 9/11 size, and it's going to divert the world's attention. And the reason they knew that was because they understand actually what's being uncovered in our nation and in our world. They understand the 100,000 plus sealed indictments. They understand that the entire the show, the Great Oz, the curtain's being pulled back on all the people who have been selling out our nation for generations now. And so because this was crumbling, the facade was crumbling, everyone who knows a little something about something knew that some event was about to take place, whether it be a mass shooting, some kind of a terrorist event, an assassination, or something's coming. And so as soon as this virus was declared, we all said, I don't know. So then when the models came out, we saw everything with a grain of salt. We said, this is very likely. But of course, you want to take it seriously. You want to be a dumbass. And if there's really is a novel virus, you don't want to, put people at risk. And so we all agreed to adhere to, the protocols for the first few weeks while we were all investigating what's behind the scene. And immediately, as soon as we started investigating, I have a team of incredible researchers. None of it made sense, and none of it matched up. And then we realized that the PCR tests were created by a man named Mikki Willis, who was on camera suggesting that it was never used in this way as a test kit for viruses in this way. And then he was also very suspicious, kind of like a male Judy Mikovits. He was starting to investigate the medical industry himself. And ironically, Mikki Willis died just before the declaration of the pandemic. And so all of that happened and made us go, something's not right here.
And what you've said is 100% true, and I have links on timetofreeamerica.com that support what you're saying, that are all vetted, all researched. What you're saying is 100% correct. Now, you also mentioned 100,000 sealed indictments. And I don't think the average person knows what a sealed indictment is. I think people would be shocked if they heard there's 100,000 of these things. Could you, in layman's terms, explain who has 100,000 sealed indictments?
Well, the indictments, who has them? I have no idea who has obtained and holds them and has jurisdiction over them. But from what I understand, there's, when we talk about draining the swamp, that there's a big swamp being drained, and that the people at the forefront of many different treasonous crimes, one of them being the investigations that we've all had to endure, that the past taxpayers have had to pay for the past 4 years. Russiagate is a really big part of that. There's a lot of sealed indictments coming down as a result of the lies that have been told, literally at the command of Hillary Clinton, that paid for the phony dossier that was created to smear Donald Trump, which has now all come out in leaked emails. And that was her plot to elevate him and then crush him with a bunch of slanderous, treasonous lies that he's a Russian asset. All the while, Hillary, Biden, and all the people blaming Trump for that are the real ones that have been colluding with Ukraine and Russia and beyond. And so there are other than that, I can't really say, much about it because, that's why they're sealed. We don't exactly know who's involved in it, but everyone from Brennan and Clapper and all the people that are part of this Russiagate scandal are, from what I understand, are part of that. And this is a long list of people that are being brought to justice for doing the things that is right now coming to light that clearly that Biden and his son have done, which is using their powers to manipulate foreign countries, to sell out the U.S., all the way down to, selling of our, this is a separate case, but when you understand cases like Uranium One, which Hillary was involved in, and to some degree Obama's administration was involved in, of allowing our uranium to be sold to the Russians. When you understand that, that very dangerous things have been placed in the hands of potential adversaries, it really calls into question the true motives of these people that are supposed to be fighting for our country, but now appear to be destroying it from the inside out.
Now, okay, and again, I have to assume that the people watching this have never heard this information before. So let's just make sure we get this. The models that were used to tell you that we need to stay home, that we need to shut our country down, those models were nefariously wrong, and those were created by Neil Ferguson and the Abdul Latif Jameel Institute and were funded by Amazon. The PCR tests, which were created by Carrie Mullis, have been used to justify being locked down now because they can't justify the lockdown based upon deaths and hospitalizations. Now they're justifying it based upon the cases. And now we continue. So, I don't think people realize this. Dr. Fauci, he is the man who backed the controversial Wuhan lab with U.S. dollars for risky coronavirus research. And if you look it up, folks, this is in Newsweek. This is not in tinfoilhat.com. This is not in leftwing.com, rightwing.com. This is just newsweek.com, puts it out there. So let me make sure we get this. President Trump in 2019 said we must ban scientific research that relies on fetal tissue, aborted babies. He says we can't do it anymore. So Fauci moves the research, which they call gain-of-function research, which involves taking a naturally occurring coronavirus from an animal, like a bat, and you take that naturally occurring virus and you mix it with fetal tissue to try to increase its transmissibility. Scientists are critical of this because it could cause a pandemic. Do you think the average person knows that it is Dr. Fauci, the very man advising America about what to do with the coronavirus, that it is he, of all the doctors, think about the probability of all of the experts in the world. Do you think that the average American knows that Dr. Fauci is the one who backed the controversial Wuhan lab with U.S. dollars?
No, it can't be true because Snopes says so. And that's the problem. The American people still lean on these fraudulent fact checkers, to give them their daily news. And if you look very, very deeply at what, outlets like Snopes and Fact Check USA and whatever, Fact Check Tomorrow, Today, whatever is called. If you look at what they really say about it, they rate it false, but there's a real trick they play there. Very familiar with, which we almost put in the pandemic, but it got cut out. Was, I think it was Snopes that said, "Oh, it's false. Anthony Fauci did not funnel $3.7 million to the Wuhan lab under the guidance of Obama." And you read that and you go, wait, who said under the guidance of Obama? We never said that. So they add in a little phrase there so they can say, oh no, we were saying Obama didn't direct it. It happened during his presidency, but then if you read down in the fine print, it ultimately says, but Anthony Fauci did it. And that's the point that we're all looking at. So people don't read the fine print. They just look at that red X, saying false. And then they go out and they fight all their friends and unfriend all their family members and everything over a fraudulent fact checker. So the truth of the matter is, Anthony Fauci's been involved in that, but way before that. Anthony Fauci's been doing this since the mid '80s, and I know this because when I was in my early 20s and my brother passed away, I had a lot of people come to me and say he didn't die of AIDS. He died of the medicine that was being pushed to the forefront. That's killing people, AZT and have you, and it was all at the hands of Anthony Fauci. And so this man is responsible for killing tens of thousands of people in the 80s and even more in Africa and beyond. And there's a lot of people who know that. There's a lot of people who have been, tracing his trail for a long time. So when he was suddenly empowered to be the advisor to the world of the first modern day global pandemic of this nature, it set a lot of shockwaves to the medical community, because they know who he is and what he's about. And it's just amazing that a man with a record of his, and look what he's done since he's been appointed this position. Not one of them have mentioned anything about the importance of us building our immune systems. If they really cared about us, let's get straight about this. If they really cared about us, while they have that microphone and everyone's sequestered in their homes, listening, looking for the guidance of medical professionals, to ensure our survival and our safety and our children's safety, why wouldn't the first thing and the most important thing be repeated every single day? How important it is for us to build our natural God-given immune system, and all the ways that nature has provided that to happen. Not one of them has said anything about that. It's been the opposite protocol. It's been stay inside, away from sunlight, away from vitamins, sterilize your home with toxic chemicals, wear a mask, suppress your oxygen. So the whole thing is incredibly fishy and dark.
Okay, so we have, again, the models were wrong. We've covered that. We know the PCR tests used to justify keeping the country shut down are wrong. Now we get into this idea of we're mixing in the people that died from the flu. We're adding, it's like one big group of people. So if you died of the flu, or you died with pneumonia, or you died from COVID-19, we're putting all that into a group, and we're calling that COVID-like. So the CDC came out 3 weeks ago. They said, 6% of the deaths, that was 9,210 Americans at the time. At the time, the CDC came out and said just 9,210 Americans actually died from COVID, not with COVID. So we know the data's corrupt from the very beginning. The models were wrong. The tests were wrong. And all roads lead to the gates of hell. All roads. Now, I appreciate that you can laugh, but it's a laugh or cry moment here, because this is some scary stuff. And I have friends of mine. I talked to a lady on Friday who told me at her hospital where she works, she's worked there for years, they've told her if she does not take the new vaccines, she can't work there anymore. And you're starting to see some crazy stuff. Yeah. All these Bill Gates, these Moderna vaccines, these RNA modifying vaccines. What can you tell us about these Bill Gates RNA vaccines, the vaccines that Dr. Fauci and Bill Gates have been working on forever? What can you say about that?
Well, I want to back up, because you just mentioned something that's actually occurring in my own family. So my sister-in-law, my wife's sister, is a nurse, and she just reached out to us yesterday. She's flying in to see us right now. Because she's had a long-standing, really good job, and they're forcing her to get a flu vaccine, and she might lose her job now. And this is a woman who, when I first started doing this work, I was trying to educate her, and it was one of those moments of like, oh man, we're gonna have family issues now, because I sent her some videos early on, and she came back at me with how disrespectful they were, how wrong they were, and people are dying, and we need to take this serious. And she's that works in the medical field, and we don't. And anyway, she kind of went off on me in a loving way, and since then, she has completely gone down the rabbit hole and has done a 180, and is now a major advocate for everything you and I are discussing right now, and because she's done her homework and has gone so deep, she refuses to take the flu shot. She knows that it'll make her more susceptible to other viruses, and particularly the flu. So anyway, that's happening all over right now. A lot of people are dealing with that. In answer to your question about Gates, regarding the RNA vaccines, my take on them, my kind of 30,000 foot view simply is, we were born with a very intelligent system. I know that we have been shamed our whole lives into thinking that humans are some kind of creature just destroying, consuming the planet. We've been conditioned to be, consumers, and we've done a lot of that. But the system that we're born into is an incredibly divine, intelligent system, and we have been forced to look away from the powers of nature and our symbiotic relationship with nature. And what those guys are doing is they're creating medicines that ultimately tell our immune system that we don't need it. Now, I will say that the concept of vaccines, I'm all for it. The concept of creating something that could prevent a global pandemic or a disease, because we are intelligent beings, if we work, in concert with nature, but they'd have to be properly tested. They'd have to be done, in a way with such level of integrity that they were actually being created to enhance our natural systems and not to shut it down and destroy it. But so far, all of these RNA vaccines have had some kind of side effect that, for the most part, outweigh their ability to heal. And we need to be real about that and understand that we have to hold these people accountable that are, when you see the increase in food allergies and how difficult it is for people just to be outside sometimes because of, all the allergies, that is an indication that our natural immune systems are failing by design.
Do you follow, have you ever watched any Kim Clement prophetic videos on YouTube?
Yeah, I've seen those videos, yeah.
Okay. So my name was actually mentioned in by Kim Clement in 2013. I didn't know who he was, and somebody texted to me, and next thing you know, I'm getting invited to the White House and meeting great people like you, and there's a lot of stuff going on, and all I can say is I want to believe that we're kind of in like Star Wars right now, and there's the good guys and the bad guys, and Darth Vader, Fauci, and Communist China, those guys lose, and Luke Skywalker wins, and maybe Dr. Atlas is kind of like Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he's teaching Trump, a.k.a. Luke, the Force, and I just want it to end well. I need some encouragement in my life. I need you to give me something,
awesome.
Some encouragement. I got to end on a high note, even if I don't lie to me. But if you need to lie to me, just make sure that I leave feeling encouraged.
No, I will not lie to you, sir.
Okay.
And it's pretty amazing that you just set the conversation up so beautifully, or maybe you heard the talk I just gave at Jekyll Island. I don't know, but you just set it up perfectly. Your mention of Star Wars. So this is the message that I really am excited to expand in the world, and that is the stories we've been telling since the beginning of the creation, since the cradle of civilization, since we were socialized into families and neighborhoods. We've been telling stories, and they're on the cave walls, and they're the stories we tell around the campfires. And I have been a student of Joseph Campbell, the man who studied mythologies of all cultures for his entire lifetime. And what he found was a very common thread within all the mythologies that have been told throughout human history. There's a very common structure, and it is such an important structure that all of Hollywood has adapted to it decades ago. And all of the iconic films worth remembering are structured upon a 3-act system that follows a great deal of what Joseph Campbell called the hero's journey. And so if we look at that, for me, that is us understanding our future. We understand how the fight happens, what transpires, and how it ends. And how this fight ends, without a doubt, like every movie worth remembering, is the light always wins. And the dragon, as Joseph Campbell would call it, is defeated. And so we're reaching a point right now, myself as a storyteller, as a filmmaker, and having studied this for 30 years or so, it's very clear to me when I look at what's happening that this is straight out of the hero's journey right now, and we are reaching the climax of the great battle. And if you just think about every Avengers movie you've seen, I'm tired of them at this point because it's always the same plot. And it's the hero coming to power. Oftentimes it's the reluctant hero, the hero that says, not me, I'm looking for someone else to save the world. It couldn't be me. But then somewhere along the way they're told, in Star Wars, the force is within you. And in Matrix, you are the one. These are the same story that the hero always finds out. It's like, there's no one here coming to save me or us. It's I have to actually step up and do what I was born to do here. And that's what's happening right now. Humanity is stepping up. They're getting clear on who the dragon is, what the dragon is, and they're just starting to look it in the eyes. And so we're about to hit that crescendo, that climactic moment.
Oh, tell me
where,
this.
yeah,
Yes.
there could be, an incredible battle that ensues. But the end of that battle is the dragon is slayed, and the hero wins, and the hero is humanity. And I have no doubt that that's what we're about to see right now.
Oh, I needed that story. That's a great story. Now, for anybody out there who, you are a great film maker, and I want to make sure that we tap into your genius just on my final question here. Somebody might want to buy a Joseph Campbell book. Is there a certain Joseph Campbell book that you might recommend where you say, hey, this is a great book to learn more about the hero's journey, or is there a specific book that would teach these concepts?
Yeah, what is his book? The Hero with 1,000 Faces. That's a really great one. Oh, a man named Christopher Vogler who wrote a book called The Writer's Journey, and I would highly recommend that. That's the first book I read when I was becoming a screenwriter. And so The Writer's Journey is based upon Joseph Campbell's hero's journey work, but it's broken down. It's a thin book for today's short attention span. It'll work really well. But they actually analyze The Wizard of Oz and a lot of other iconic movies. What he does is he analyzes Joseph Campbell's work, and he frames it within our modern day life experiences, and he uses great films like The Wizard of Oz and some other classics to really break down what our journey is as humans. So I highly recommend Christopher Vogler's The Writer's Journey. Whether you're into screenwriting or not, it will really help people have a grasp of framing what's going on in our hero's journey here on planet Earth.
And folks, if you have yet to see the movie, the Plandemic 1 and 2, check it out right now. And the website, again, I want to make sure I'm repeating this correctly. It's plandemicseries.com. Plandemicseries.com. There you can watch you can watch everything. You can go down the rabbit trail. And let me just tell you, everything is so cited, so detailed, so proven, so vetted. You're going to probably need to block out. You're going to start with like an hour, but then 47 hours later, you're going to find yourself still learning things. It's just an unbelievable amount of research.
That's true.
Thank you, Mikki, for being on the Thrive Time Show. You are a great American.
Thank you, sir, and so are you. It's been a pleasure.
And now, without any further ado, 3, 2, 1, boom!
If you don't understand you're the one, you won't understand why you're being attacked like you're being attacked. Whenever the enemy knows that the one is coming, he always sets traps to stop them from succeeding because they're the one. And to him whom much is given, much is required. And so the text starts out talking about Abraham because Abraham is the one. And Abraham had to move out from his country and away from his kindred because he was the one. So he was a misfit because he was the one. So he didn't get to stay because he was the one. So he had to live in isolation because he was the one. So he probably was lonely because he was the one. Because he was the one. Because he was the one.
New city, new state, it's gonna be a mean race. All the sins that I have done, I'm grateful for a clean slate. Felt like I was different, I ain't never tried to prove it though. Stack your chips, get on your grind, don't never make excuses, bro. Solid as a rock, loyalty is all I ever know. Doing what you've always done, then homie, you can never grow. Conversations with the Lord, I ask him would I ever blow. Told me I got dead weight, so friends, I gotta let them go. We don't make it, I know they hating, it's all in their faces. We destined for greatness, I said I've been patient. I know it's my moment, no stopping, we going, this thing is in motion. What you gon' do when your back's against the wall? You gon' stand up like a champ or you gon' curl up in the ball? I'm the one, I've been chosen, so I'm riding through it all. Gotta keep your faith up so you can rise and never fall. Let's go.
And Abraham had to move out from his country and away from his kindred because he was the one. So he didn't get to stay with his kinfolks because he was the one. They are always on the hit list because hell knows that he is the one. I want to talk to some people that have been up under crazy attack. And to him whom much is given, much is required.
The devil's been attacking, I ain't stressing from it. Cause every time that happens, there's a blessing coming. Obsessing over problems that you can't change. I had you going crazy, learn your lesson from it. Remember when they cut my water off, homie? Man, reflecting how they cut my lights off too. Dog, I had to move back in with my mama. Had me feeling like a failure, that's what life would do. Gotta get up on your grind, I had to make the right move. Ramen noodles every night, I had some beans and rice too. Execution is the key don't tell me what you might do. Favor from the man above, no other God is like you. You can knock me down, but I promise I ain't staying there. Feeling like I am the one, we just begun, let's make it clear. Me and Clay clicking up, y'all don't even get it, bruh. About to be colossal, taking over when we rip it up, hey.
And Abraham had to move out from his country and away from his kindred because he was the one. So he didn't get to stay with his kinfolks because he was the one. They are always on the hit list because hell knows that he is the one. I want to talk to some people that have been up under crazy attack. And to him whom much is given, much is required.
Yeah, started from the bottom, now I'm here. Overnight success after 23 years. Got the dragon energy, got another gear. Got a superpower, man, I call persevere. Cause I never have a thought people call fear. I never stop writing when the future's not clear. We're gonna be dead soon and I'm just being real. So I'll be paralyzed by the thoughts that we feel.
So you'll stop begging for people to come into agreement with you. So you'll stop doing polls and census and trying to get everybody to come into consensus with your vision so that you won't need nobody to say amen when you preach, because you already know that you got heaven saying amen. The power of one.
Listen to the entire T.D. Jakes sermon, Grasping the Moment, by visiting T.D. Jakes' YouTube channel, simply named T.D. Jakes.
Thunder, you're getting ready to flow.